He just got traded to the Phoenix Suns. I'm obviously talking about Kevin Durant. Middle of the night, I got a notification. I was laying in bed, half awake, half asleep, see a notification saying that Kevin Durant has been traded to the Phoenix Suns. And obviously it was shocking for most people. I thought it was entirely possible that he could finish this year with Brooklyn, then focus on the future. I feel like the pieces in Brooklyn were good enough to at least win a playoff series, and see what Kevin Durant does with, I wouldn't say suboptimal talent, but not what we would expect of the Brooklyn Nets certainly 2 years ago when they made the James Harden trade. I'll talk about the Nets later on. The failure of that big three cannot be understated. But as for KD individually, getting traded to Phoenix, obviously the trade got Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson was involved, 4 first-round picks. So 2 key wings for the Suns now gone for KD, who obviously teams up now with Chris Paul, with Devin Booker, not to mention DeAndre Ayton as their big man. Does this make the Suns the favorites to come out of the West? I believe it does. Because now you look at the Western Conference contenders. We talk about Denver, Golden State, Dallas now with Kyrie Irving, paired up with Luka Doncic. You think about some folks are mentioning the Lakers. I have serious doubts. The Clippers made a lot of moves at the deadline today, and certainly were in that mix even before that. You step back and look and you say, okay, Chris Paul's the point guard, has an opportunity to dish to 2 of the best scorers in the game. Devin Booker, who feels like is kind of going into his prime right now. A guy who, all he did a few years back was score 70. You're talking about a Chris Paul who is 3rd all-time in the NBA in assists. And you're also talking about a Chris Paul who has struggled historically in the playoffs. And a Suns team the last 2 years that has struggled to put away playoff series, 2 in particular, in which they led 2-0. Think about the series against the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals, up 2-0. We're thinking series is over, and all they do is lose 4 consecutive games. Giannis Antetokounmpo did an absolute number on them. Last year, heavy favorites to beat the Dallas Mavericks in the second round, lead 2-0, lead 3-2 at one point. Blown out in Dallas Game 6, and embarrassed in Phoenix in Game 7. And so it felt like at that point, the Suns' championship window had closed. I predicted them this year to be the 7th seed. This obviously changes everything. One of the Suns' biggest issues against Milwaukee, against Dallas, is when things started to go haywire, particularly on the road. They never had a guy, and I love D-Book, he's a great scorer, but he's not this. They never had a guy give the ball to him, just go get a bucket. Don't care how you do it. Get to the rim, mid-range three-point shot. I don't care how you do it. Get to the free throw line, whatever the case may be. Get us a bucket. They've got that now. They've got a guy who wakes up averaging 30 points a game, who's shooting over 50% for the field, 40% from 3, 90% from the line, a 50-40-90 guy in Kevin Durant. The most gifted, I didn't say the greatest, the most gifted offensive scorer that we've ever seen in the game. I believe. You talk about the crossover, the three-point shot, the mid-range, everything. And they lose Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges too, especially Mikal Bridges, who was up for Defensive Player of the Year a year ago. 2 of the best wing defenders in the league. 2 threats from the three-point line. Yeah, well, Kevin Durant, I don't know if you noticed, a few years ago he finished top 5 in blocks. He's one of the better wing defenders in the league. That's why he was such a great fit with Golden State. That's why, and it certainly hurt my soul to see that he will not be joining the Golden State Warriors again anytime soon. Certainly, he does have 3 years left on his current deal with the Nets. But I always say about any time I'm evaluating whether a team is a championship contender or not, I always say, do I have more questions than I do answers about you? For years with the Brooklyn Nets, KD, Kyrie, Harden, I had nothing but questions. Depth. You say, well, what about Phoenix's depth? You've got Damian Lee. You've got Cam Payne. You've got Torrey Craig. You've got plenty of guys. Not to mention, by the way, there's going to be a lot of dudes available in the buyout market. Kevin Love looks like might be bought out by the Cavaliers. Patrick Beverley, although I don't think that helped big time, especially considering the fact that Pat Bev and Chris Paul seem to have a little bit of animosity towards one another, if not a lot. But there's going to be plenty of guys. JaVale McGee, I've heard, would be available. He played for Phoenix recently. So you can get some interior presence. There's some shot makers that they're going to be available. I doubt they make the move for Russell Westbrook. It seems like the Clippers are more interested, the Chicago Bulls as well. We'll see what happens in that regard. We'll talk about Russ later in the show. But I know what Kevin Durant is. I know that he's one of the great postseason performers that we've seen. Devin Booker, listen, I've always had questions about whether he's a 1, but is he a 2? Absolutely. And Chris Paul, who has certainly had his playoff struggles in the past, I feel like at least certainly in the scoring load, in the offensive load as a whole, some pressure gets taken off him and put on number 35 and number 1. And you got Monty Williams. Unlike the Brooklyn Nets and their big 3 a couple of years ago with Steve Nash, the Suns have one of the 5 best coaches in the league in Monty Williams, who is as good as anybody at steadying the ship, understanding, what to say, what to draw up at whatever time the game calls for it. So for these Phoenix Suns, anything, and I do mean anything, short of the NBA Finals is an absolute failure. I respect the heck out of Phoenix for doing this. Did they give up a lot? Yeah, they did. They obviously mortgaged a lot of their future with those 4 first-round picks, 2 young players in Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. But as I always say, strike while the iron's hot. If you believe you've got a team that can compete for and possibly win a championship, you go for it. You forget the future, you go for it. As they said, what was it? Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, F them picks, or whoever the GM back in the day said F them picks. That's what the Suns are saying. They understood that they were on the doorstep 2 years ago and didn't have enough. A walking 30 points, the most efficient 30 points in the league currently, that'll certainly solve some of your issues. So do I love the trade for Kevin Durant for the Phoenix Suns? I do. Now, am I saying they're going to win the West? No, I'm still rolling with my Warriors. I'll talk about the Gary Payton move later. But this is a fantastic move by the Phoenix Suns. As for Brooklyn, well, have fun with Ben Simmons. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.